Okay. I think we're going. We're now recording a podcast. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I appreciate you doing this.
No problem.
So I'm going to be constantly checking these cameras just because they reset every 20 minutes.
Don't they have screens that come out and flip so you can see it?
This one does, but not the iPad or this one.
Okay.
So constantly having to switch back and forth. Would you like to light this thing?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised there's no soot or burn mark here.
There's a little bit of a singe here on the microphone.
Because I've seen the flame get pretty high.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, nice.
So can we just have 15 minutes of silence?
Yeah, sure. To stare at the flames.
Well, let me set my timer.
Worship the fire gods.
Yeah, we are getting some heat.
Yeah. It is pretty toasty. I mean, I've never had it inside I guess I never needed it when it was super cold, but
right.
It's. I'd imagine this would heat up the van pretty quickly.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess the way I usually start these things is like,
I can't stand this.
I'm so sorry. Well, that's actually part of the presentation.
I know. Because this is a sketchy fan.
Yeah. It's like it's kind of uncomfortable. It's pretty But the way I usually start this stuff is like, it's not to talk about the technique of learning how to paint or become a better draftsman or sculpt better, learn a better anatomy. It's more about like the why of doing things.
Right.
And when I look at somebody like you, you're somebody who's like, you made a career out of oil painting. Something that's like it's hard. It's harder than doing it digitally. It's harder than, I guess making movie posters or working in entertainment. And you've chosen to follow a path of, doing fine art instead of potentially like an easier route. And I'm always curious about like why, put yourself through the struggle of doing something that's harder, but potentially more meaningful. When it comes to art.
Okay, I'm not sure I agree with all the premises there, but so what's the question?
Well, I guess it's like, well, why? How do you find meaning out of the art that you do? That's essentially the question.
I think you do it because you find meaning in it.
Yeah.
You don't have to find meaning. It's like the meaning is there because you are attracted to it.
Yeah.
I believe. Everybody's given a gift that's something that they're good at, and when you're good at it, it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
And for me, drawing and painting is natural to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that I had to have anybody ever in my life motivate me to do it.
Yeah. Right.
So it was easy.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it all the time.
And
I wanted to learn how to get better at it.
Yeah.
But because I had an initial talent, that was obvious as a kid, I didn't have anybody in my life tell me that I can't do it. That's probably, the greatest gift that my parents gave me was not discouraging me.
Yeah. Well, and I find among the people that I know that I consider successful, that seems like it's not about where you came from at all. It's not about your upbringing. It is to a degree, but I think it's mostly, having the belief in yourself to actually be able to accomplish the thing you think you can accomplish. And I'm curious, like, as I'm moving forward and as I'm talking to more people, how do I cultivate that in my own life, and how do I guess, try and help other people find that thing and give themselves enough permission to actually pursue it themselves, Because I meet people all the time. I've been driving around the country for 5 months, and I meet people who are truly like, in a version of hell. They don't believe in themselves at all. They've given up their love, whether it's dancing or singing or painting or something, to do a job they don't like because of security or, which it's a reasonable, logical thing to do. I don't fault them for it, but I think it's tragic in a sense.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing I'm trying to figure out. It's like when I look at you again, I look at somebody who you didn't compromise with the way you wanted to do it. It's like you might have felt pressure to, instead of doing.
You mean compromise? I'm trying to make sure I understand you from where you're coming from.
yeah. Everyone does the same thing.
All of a sudden, I'm OCD or something, and I'm not normally, but I want to change everything in this van. I'm having a hard time concentrating on you because I'm thinking of there should be a shelf here. I don't know about this compromise thing. Like you say, I didn't compromise. I really don't even know what you mean by that. To be honest with you, like what do you see as? Well, me not compromising.
I guess it's like you had the option to do other things. I think it's like, I mean,
like what?
I'm
not sure what those other things were.
Did you go to college?
No.
I think that was a choice that was in front of you. Somebody probably told you to go to college.
The school told me to go to college.
And you were like, fuck that. I'm going to go to art school. I'm going to become an illustrator.
I already was in art school. So, I started art school on a professional level at 15.
Yeah.
I was studying with the guy that I ended up studying for 3 to 4 years at the age of 15. So by the time I was 18, 19, I was ready to actually go into the industry at that point, you know. So it was funny as the high school counselors were trying to convince me to take the SAT because I should get into a good college. I was already like in my second year of professional school, and I'd already done a couple jobs, and I just knew this is what I was going to be, an illustrator. That's what I wanted to be more than anything.
Yeah. Right.
And so, it wasn't like it was a hard decision, and it wasn't like I felt like I was making a decision to have a profession that might lead to a hard life.
Yeah.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
But if you want to say that I wasn't, I was never tempted to get a job to do anything else because I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah, right.
So it was just very natural. It wasn't like a big, courageous moment to say, I'm going to be an artist and not an accountant.
Right.
I could never have been an accountant. I'm not good at math.
Yeah.
But if I was great at math, it would have been like easy as pie to say I'm going to be an accountant, but it would have taken great courage to say, no, I'm still going to be an artist even though I have a talent more for numbers, Right. I think people who give up actual obvious talent that they've been given in something to do something else, I suppose you could say they're the ones that are uncompromising in their
like braver
in a way. Right. There was nothing brave about what I did. It was as easy as pie to go down that road,
Well, and I guess that's the thing I'm trying to figure out because I think everyone has that thing in their life where they're good at it. They have this like easy as pie decision, but not everyone makes that decision, obviously.
Right.
And it's like, what about you like made that decision easier?
I'm a hard worker.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I'm always looking for that quality, for in other people too that would maybe do work for me, things like that. There just aren't enough people who can sit down for 16 hours and just work hard because they love getting a job done well. And that's the kind of personality that was instilled in me, by my parents too, an admiration for hard work. And so when you put your dreams somewhere and say, I'm going to be a this, you put in all the hard work. It wasn't easy to do thousands and thousands of drawings to get where I wanted to be. It was, a lot of time put into it.
Right.
But when you're just motivated to try to do the best job you can at whatever you've decided to point yourself at, then that it becomes easier to make that decision to do it because I'm never going to give up.
Yeah, of course.
You have to have a personality that just says, I'm never going to give up. I've failed many of times at what I attempt. But I never say, well, I'm never going to do this anymore. I just go, I'm going to... I learn from every mistake, every failure, and I just use that and say, I'm going to be better because of this failure.
Right.
And you just keep going, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the personality you have to be successful in anything you do.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
Well, and I think it's like you probably failed more than any other painter that I like. You know, you probably have failed more than most painters. You know, it's like.
What does that mean?
I mean, okay, I'm gonna rephrase that. I mean, it's like you're, you know, when I look at somebody who is not as successful as you in their art, you know, they just didn't fail as much as you. That's what I suspect is the difference. You know, it's
Okay.
like, you know, that's what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
like your
Right.
tolerance for failure is way lower or way higher than, you know.
My tolerance for mediocre is just as bad as my tolerance for failure too,
Right.
because that came from my teacher in art school,
Fred, right?
Fred Fixler. He made all of us feel like we had to strive to be better than our heroes.
Yeah.
We never were able to do it,
Yeah.
but you just weren't happy with mediocre.
Yeah.
You were just as I was going through art school, I had my favorites, but Norman Rockwell was always one of those guys that just I was marveling at his draftsmanship and his sense of color and his sense of design and all those things when I was 15 years old. And I always compared everything I did to
Yeah.
this guy. It's impossible to do Rockwell.
Yeah.
And so that made you just, fail. Oh, if you could say it, want to call it that, every painting was a failure in my eyes.
Right.
Because I could never be him, And so, I guess you could say I had a lot of failures. But other people looked at them as successes. But
and I think it's the thing I'm learning. It's your own subjective vision on how you look at things. That's actually the thing that makes a difference,
Yeah.
And I think, the thing I ask people is like, would you be doing exactly the same thing you're doing right now if you had $1 billion? And if the answer is no, then you should probably change what you're doing. You know? And I suspect at any point in your career, if I would have given you $1 billion, you would have still been a painter. It's like you wouldn't have been like, oh, I can finally go travel the world, or I can finally go start this company I wanted to start. You're like, oh, I would,
I would eventually come back to painting.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm just such a pure artist that I wouldn't take a nice, super long break.
Yeah.
I've been making my living as an artist since I was like 15, and I am tired. Yeah. Sometimes I wake up and I go, I can't believe I have to keep creating stuff here all the time. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. It seems like it. I mean,
it is.
And again, that's what I mean with the there are easier paths to make money than being an artist. I don't think that that's necessarily arguable.
Yeah. That's definitely true.
And it's again. With the money stuff, I don't think money is absolutely not the point of this. It's like the freedom and the expression and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. And, I don't know. It's
So you seem like you have this quest that you're on, and that this podcast is almost kind of like your counseling van.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and you just keep asking advice from everybody that you come across.
I guess so. I mean, it's like a.
But my question would be for you is, do you think anything anybody could say to you could really change your motivation?
No, not at all.
Not at all. It's really not going to come from.
It's not external.
Outside.
Yeah, there's nothing. Again, the thing I'm learning is that there's I'd like to be successful, obviously. I'd like to try and find my own version of being a successful person. And
doing what?
I have no idea. That's the thing. But
what are you good at?
I have an idea. It's talking to people.
What are you good at?
Talking to people.
Oh, so this is the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
A version of this, right?
Right.
But I'm learning. It's like I go talk to every kind of person that I try and find.
Right.
Like whether it's like extremely wealthy business people or or successful artists or whoever, and I'm finding that there's like a fundamental truth to living that you can't be taught. You have to go and search for it yourself. You have to look inside. And again, when I look at you, it's like there's no part of your journey that seems necessarily extrinsically motivated. I mean, there are some parts of it,
my story's not motivating.
No. I mean, for you, it's like for I doubt you're that when you were training, you weren't motivated by money. You're motivated by the idea of getting better, and what that means for you personally,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I did a whole lot of thinking like you have.
Yeah. I've been told I overthink everything. But,
I've been drawing since literally my whole life. My parents say that from 19 months old on, that's what I was going to be, as an artist.
Yeah.
And actually, when you're told that,
it makes a difference. Yeah.
Since you were a tiny kid, he's an artist.
Yeah.
You do kind of identify yourself that way, and so it's kind of easy just to keep living that way. But there was never this heavy duty thinking like you're.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I think if you think about something almost too much, you end up talking yourself out of everything.
Well, I've been told I do. I am analysis paralysis is my biggest. I look at everything too closely.
Sometimes you just gotta just stop and just step out in faith and just do.
Have faith. We were talking about this van is not ideal, right? It's messy, it's disorganized, it's you're thinking of things that could improve it, but this entire thing was an exercise in just doing that. It's can I just live in this thing for 5 months, sleep in parking lots, sleep in campsites, be homeless,
Right.
And it's I did it and nothing bad happened, and a lot of good things came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can either sit around and overanalyze everything, or I can just continue to try and do stuff like this.
Right.
And I think fundamentally, this stuff is way more productive than I ever could be just by
Yeah, well, you're creating something that's for sure. You're creating a body of work that you can point to and say, I did that, and you can feel a sense of accomplishment, and you can feel some pride in something you've done with your life that you can point to.
Yeah.
And so that alone is a motivation to do it.
Yeah.
They have something to point to. And that's what I did. I think that's what artists have as an advantage over so many other people.
Yeah.
There could be the greatest. I don't mean to pick on accountants.
I know. I always talk about accountants.
The greatest accountants in the world that are just geniuses with numbers. They still can't point to it when they're at a dinner party and go, I did that.
Yeah, right.
They have nothing to point to other than, I've successfully provided for my family for 50 years.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely worth pointing to. But it's not something you can say, by doing this, I added these numbers up for 50 years. It's not something fun to show people. Whereas as an artist, all I have to do is bring out my iPad and say, well, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my whole life it can be shown.
Yeah, in 10 seconds.
So it's kind of a weird thing to be able to literally visually show someone what your whole life has been about.
Yeah. Right.
Not a lot of people have that advantage.
Yeah. Well, and I guess when I look at a guy like Stan, I look at somebody who, you could teach a class in person, and that is never recorded.
Right.
It's that goes away. It disappears.
Yeah.
There's a residual benefits of the students talking about you, and and actually you helping them and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Which can echo out, but when it's a video, it's actually recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And theoretically, you're recording the best possible version of yourself teaching.
Right.
So your scale goes from being 15 people in a classroom at the very most to being 100,000 or 1 million or 2 million or however many people are willing to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at this stuff, it's when you work at Starbucks, you can't quantify your work. It's even less so than an accountant.
Right.
It's not like the work is. I think working at Starbucks is actually extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Having to memorize all the drink orders, dealing with 50 people trying to get you their coffees.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it's probably not valued as highly is because there's no evidence of that effort or that struggle. So people get.
Although I do know an artist or a friend of mine who has always wanted to be an artist, and he worked at not Starbucks but a coffee kiosk kind of thing, and because he has creative talents, he would do the foam thing, and then he literally would do little portraits and stuff, and then photograph it and put it on his Instagram.
Yeah.
So he's actually recording,
Yeah.
kind of like he figured out a way to have a record of how good of a barista he is, or whatever you know. And so, in today's age, there is actually a way that people use to kind of record what they do now. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
There's more creativity, I suppose, now.
Well, sorry, this camera's died. Yeah, well, the thing that I tell people is, like, you know, in the 1950s, 70s, I mean, you know this better than anyone, the only way to, you know, I might be wrong in saying this, but the only way to get your art out there is to be J.C. Leyendecker, to be doing the post covers.
To be a professional, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But now it's like you have a cell phone in your pocket, which, you know.
There's a lot of people out there that have become famous and they've never been published.
Yeah.
You know, you had to be published to be considered, you know, to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and I think it's you know, maybe getting published is actually a slower way of doing it now, significantly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like
right, for sure.
There are artists on TikTok that become famous overnight.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. There's people that are published that nobody still knows who they are, but they're published.
Yeah, right. It's like, okay, you know. Well, I think it's you know, I think it's actually, you know, there are downsides to it, like the bar for quality is lower, and you know, if everyone can publish, then you know it's yeah. But it's great because everyone can now publish, you know, and now there's people that were like diamonds in the rough that never got their chance can, you know, they can do portraits on coffee and, you know, have that be a perfectly valid way of getting people to look at what you do, you know.
Right.
And for me, like you know, we've talked about this. Like, I don't know if I'm somebody who makes images. I love drawing, I love painting, but I'm not necessarily an image maker, you know.
Okay.
And I'm finding it's really, really hard to sell images. Like, you know, we can cut this out if you want, but like you were telling me there was like 20 collectors for Western painters. And, you know, it's like you're people that can actually afford your paintings. It's like you're constantly just trying to do amazing paintings to like feed these 20 people. So the scale of it is, you know, there's a lot of money, but the scale of it is not that high. You know?
Right.
And I found that I actually don't care enough about images myself to put enough effort into competing at that level. You know, I just my attention just can't go there, you know.
Right.
But I'm finding that, like, even as somebody who doesn't make images, just me loving art can be a way of me making a living off of it. You know, and I guess the thing I'm saying is that no matter who you are, you know, like, you might, if you're having you know, trouble getting into the art industry, you know, you might be, your personal legend might not be being an image maker. It might be like a producer. It might be like somebody who just talks about art and shares it, or somebody who, you know, is a teacher, you know, like anything else, you know.
Right.
And I think part of finding that personal legend is like letting go of the ego, you know, letting go of that, you know, pride of, you know, failure, you know.
The pride of failure?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, again, when I look at a guy like Stan, I see somebody who, like...
Very prideful.
Well, yeah, I mean, he has called himself very arrogant, but, like, he got into art because he wanted to be a Disney animator, you know?
Right.
And he's a failed Disney animator from one perspective. From another perspective, he's a guy with millions of subscribers on YouTube.
Right.
You know? It's like, which one is the correct way of looking at it? And I think that, you know, he's a successful YouTuber, you know? For him, if he got caught up in being a failed Disney artist, nothing ever would have come from anything else, you know? Right. And, you know, again, if he was tied to the identity of being an artist instead of just being somebody who creates stuff. You know?
Right.
Because I would guess you don't consider yourself a painter necessarily. You're like a creator, you know, and painting is your medium for creating, you know.
I guess so. Yeah. Literally, you've given it more time and thought than I have.
I don't know, man.
I honestly just do.
Yeah. Well, again,
and I have, you know, I've got responsibilities that do motivate me beyond just wanting to be an artist, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, I don't think so.
You know, I think you have to jump into life.
Yeah.
Both feet. Yeah. And you can't keep one foot here and one foot there. You just have to go, I'm going to live a life, you know, and it's going to have responsibilities. I'm going to have to pay for those responsibilities through hard work, and I'm going to do it as an artist.
Yeah.
Well, don't put off one and say, I'm not going to do all those things until I'm a successful artist.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
The only way you're going to be a successful artist is to have that motivation with you.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And so, you know, I'm sometimes when you're like, I'll wake up and I don't feel like painting. I don't feel like being creative. And sometimes I want to just get a job where I put stuff together in a factory, you know. But this is what I'm good at making a living at. And so I'm motivated to just still try to be creative when I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Because I have a responsibility. If you gave me that $1 billion that you are offering me, I really hope that's a true thing you're going to do.
yeah, absolutely. As you can tell, I could afford to give you $1 billion.
Well, when you scrimp and save the way you seem to be doing, you know, if I had that $1 billion, I wouldn't have that motivation that I have to take care of responsibilities in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Only responsibility is to make more investments, I suppose, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But pretty much you don't have to think about that. Well, you know, I think in a way that would probably hurt a lot of artists.
Yeah, just having money, right?
Having money would not make me a better artist.
No, I think
it would make me lazy.
It'd make me a worse artist.
I have seen, and I won't name names, but I have seen like some illustrators who were the best in their field and considered that to this day.
Yeah.
Who, when given an opportunity to not have to think about money, just do fine art, didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They kind of like lost their motivation. Yeah. And yet they're like the best artists I could ever point to. Yeah. And I think I'd be one of those. Yeah. I think if somebody just handed me $1 billion, I wouldn't be motivated probably to do the best paintings that I could possibly do anymore. Right. I would be more like, I think I'll give up on this. It's not really working out. Yeah. Whereas right now, I got to make it work out. Yeah. Right. I will scrape ahead 15 times to make this thing work out. And I work, 16, 17 hours a day to try to get it done in time for the show and all this sort of stuff. And out of that chaos, something usually is interesting that comes out of it.
Well, and I think it's, like I was talking to Marco Bucci about this, where like changing a baby's diaper sucks, right? It's just not pleasant, right? But it's obviously still worth having kids, even in spite of changing diapers, And I think, going back to the meaning thing, I think that's what I'm talking about. It's like a lot of meaning comes from the struggle of being a painter and actually the struggle of being an artist, It's like for me, I could go and get a job where I'm making enough money to like live comfortably, right? But every time I was on that path, I was thinking I would rather be doing this, I'd rather be in a van driving around the country, being super hot, struggling, driving. I've driven like 13,000 miles over the past 5 months. It's
great.
It's like, there's something about that struggle that was way more valuable to me than the pursuit of money,
Right.
And I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Pursuit of money. Okay. I never looked at anything I do as the pursuit of money. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I don't think about money all the time.
Yeah. Right. Well, I guess it's
I think about money as the thing that helps me with my responsibilities. Yeah. Right. To fulfill what I'm doing for other people. Yeah. I need to make a living. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know how many people actually just their only pursuit is to make a lot of money. There's got to be a reason why you want the money.
Well, and I think I don't know. I think in a lot of cases it's like, it's not necessarily the pursuit of money. It is what the money can get you. It's like money's just a tool, right?
Hey, John Lennon, do you remember the interview he gave about money where here's a guy who you would have thought had enough money by the time he left the Beatles. Yeah. That they broke up. But he still felt insecure with the amount he had. Yeah. And he was motivated to keep working until he had enough where he felt like he was secure enough to take care of everything he needed, his responsibilities. Yeah. Because when you're somebody like him, you've got a lot of people and you got a lot of things that you got to take care of. And he finally reached this one moment in his life where he talked about, like, he felt like, I have enough in the bank to not think about it anymore. And I don't know what that's like. But I think that's the place where we all would like to be. And that motivation isn't to be rich and just have power and rich. I mean, there are those people.
Yeah.
But I think most of us just are trying to pursue a point where we're not trying to say, like, get rich.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get to the point where every day I don't wake up trying to figure out how to pay bills.
Yeah. Right.
Right? That's not a abnormal thing.
Yeah.
And a person who is a workaholic is just sometimes trying to do that. They're just trying to get to a point where they're taking care of everybody that they need to take care of and stuff. But there's nothing bad about any of that.
No, and again, I think there's a meaning there.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure we both met people who are extremely wealthy who don't live meaningful lives. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know plenty of people that are worth $100-200 million, and they're like, what do I do? You know, what do I do with this time that I have? I can do anything I want. You know.
Right.
They might not have a great relationship with their family. You know, and it's like, you know, would you give up? This is completely rhetorical, but would you give up, you know, the relationship with your family and kids in order to have that peace of mind that, you know, you want?
Mm-hmm.
I think the answer's been no, you know, based on your actions. Like,
now let me think about that.
yeah, you go and ask them, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there is that stereotype of, like, you know, that person on their deathbed, they're not going to wish they spent more time, you know, doing spreadsheets to, you know, maximize their money. It's to find the meaning in, you know, their day-to-day life, you know.
Yeah, I think I have a deathbed mentality, and I have for many years. But I still don't know why anyone would buy a deathbed. Just, why even have one?
I have no idea. But, yeah. I saw this video where it was like a practical joke where they took their granddad in to buy their casket for them, you know, buy their coffin. Pretty morbid. But, yeah.
I go to swap meets.
Yeah.
We have one locally, and I'm looking for antiques for what I do, props. And I go a lot. It always boggles my mind because there's one that we have here, Dignity Mortuary. Yeah. And they just have a little canopy and a table with the brochures at a swap meet where they're trying to sell you plots. Yeah. And I just try to always imagine, like, at what point when you have to make a decision to go to the swap meet and then you see that and you go, hey, honey, let's go over there. Let's talk about, let's talk to that lady sitting there about buying a plot at the swap meet. Yeah. I've never understood that at all. Yeah. At what point in your life are you thinking about that and you're also walking around a swap meet and you think you're going to make that kind of decision? It's amazing to me.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I think the human brain is really strange. You know? Yeah. It's like the fact that anyone does anything is so bizarre to me. You know, it's like, I mean, the way I've been living is that everything is open to everybody. You know, I think all decisions. I mean, you're limited by your own personality and what you value and everything. But the fact that people dedicate their lives to running a thrift store or something, you know, instead of, like, if they got into cryptocurrency or some internet business, they can make way more money way quicker. Like, I believe that as a fact, you know. But instead, you know, they run a thrift store, they run a gas station, they do all this stuff, and you know, I think it's a combination of, like, them not knowing what it would take to do that path, or them actually choosing that life over potential of making a lot more money.
Right. Right.
And yeah, for me, I personally think, like, at some point I might be rich. You know, I might be completely poor for the rest of my life, or I might be incredibly wealthy at some point. You know,
I just hope that when you're 30, you're still not talking about it.
I definitely will be. I for sure will be. I'm positive.
Which, it reminds me of the frustration. You're a little frustrating. You're a little frustrated. You're frustrating.
I'm frustrating too.
Yeah, you're frustrating. If you were my son.
Yeah.
it's not much different. What you're doing is not much different than the people that I've known in my time of teaching, doing workshops and stuff, of the perpetual workshop takers.
Yeah.
Who, like, at some point they just, you want to say, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
Why aren't you just painting now?
Yeah. Right.
Like, it's like this constant, I still need to take more classes kind of thing.
Yeah.
I need to not actually step out and do it. I just need to feel the comfort of the classroom.
Right.
Cause
again, I think my personal belief is that most people don't need art teachers, because I think you can explain painting in less than an hour.
okay.
They need therapists. They need people to tell them that they can do a good job.
Yeah.
I think that's way more true, than
okay.
But do you disagree, or?
Oh, I think a teacher, art teacher, is pretty important.
Well, I think it's somebody to, I think it's somebody to, like, coach you and to tell you you're doing a good job, to, like, correct,
if you don't have somebody that's physically correcting you and just audibly correcting you.
Yeah.
It could take forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought I was pretty good.
Yeah.
I worked my butt off until I was 15. I had already put myself through the famous artist course. I had, was working on paintings and drawings, thinking, I think I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing pretty good. And I'd already studied and memorized every muscle, in 10th grade. I was supposed to be taking French class, but instead I'm secretly studying and memorizing, anatomy.
Yeah.
And so by the time I started with Fred when I was 15, I thought I was hot stuff.
Yeah.
And I could draw every muscle out from memory and name it. And I told him that on the very first day I walked into class. And a young, cocky kid, thinking I'm going to impress him with where I'm at already.
Right.
And he said, sit down, okay? I want you to draw me the arm with all the muscles. Show me what you know. And I got a little nervous, but I knew I could do it. So I did. And he looked at it, and he's like, okay. I want you to draw from this photo. And he gave me a photo of an Indian. And I sat there and I drew an Indian head. And I completely thought I was just acing it. And after I did those two things, he took a piece of tracing paper and he put them over my drawing.
Yeah.
And he sat down, get out of the way. And he completely did this masterful overdrawing of what it was supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Showing me how I wasn't really drawing what I was seeing and all this stuff. And it was the wake-up moment of my life. Like, wow, I really was wrong about my abilities here.
Right.
And without somebody that comes in and does that, who is just honest as can be, not caring about your feelings at all, that is like the greatest gift you could be given.
Well, I think it's more important that somebody's open to being critiqued in that way, because somebody different might have been, like, unable to humble themselves and unable to be like, somebody else might have been like, oh, Fred, you're a bad artist because I know I'm correct and I know you're wrong,
Yeah, I guess so. There are some, horribly blind people, I suppose, that they don't even recognize what, like, a good drawing could be.
Yeah.
And then they still think there's... I've experienced that in class, where I'm teaching a class and, you overpaint. I'll paint right over a student's work.
Yeah.
And literally repaint the head.
Yeah.
They could sell it if they wanted to, right? Yeah. And then for the next 3 hours, they continue to work over it.
Yeah.
And just completely put it right back to where it was.
Right.
And you just think to yourself, I'm never going to be able to help them.
Yeah. And I think it's like, again, that's way more of a them problem than like a knowledge problem,
It's
like
a pride thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Stan's been picking on me a little bit for the same exact kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like a pride or something. When it comes to, I'm definitely, I'm admitting my own faults,
Yeah.
Definitely have some of that kind of stuff going on.
If you were my son.
Yeah. Bring out the belt.
You know.
And I guess the thing that I'm learning is that I think anyone can come back from anything. I think that like there's no rules being written about, how good of an artist somebody can or can't be.
Okay.
And I think that, anyone can learn the mindset to become, I guess, like maybe not master painter, but become proficient in painting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that mindset can be applied to business or,
Mm-hmm.
playing the piano or anything. It's just a matter of, I guess, actually being able to do it, and actually being able to humble yourself in that way, But,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know.
I've watched your podcast, and what's funny
Yeah.
is a lot of the questions you ask is real obvious
Yeah.
that you'll make a statement that's not necessarily a question, but it's more like you're wanting me to validate your life,
Sure, yeah,
your philosophy of life.
Yeah.
So I'm being careful as you talk. To the people watching this, they may think, why has he got that expression on his face? It's because I'm listening to you almost like I do when I watch your podcast. This is kind of interesting to hear you think as you talk. I'm hearing you validate your choices in life so far.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
Yeah. And I think your choices in life are totally fine. I'm not saying that, but it's almost like you have to keep convincing yourself that what you're doing with your life is valid.
I think that's true. I think,
and these interviews are like, I'm going to get a bunch of professional people to come in this van and tell me I'm doing good.
Yeah. I think that's partially true. I mean,
and that's why I'm you're doing okay.
Thanks, Dad. I appreciate it.
Now, you're not going to be allowed to marry my daughter. I got to tell you that.
Wow, thanks.
Not until you're not living in a van.
Yeah, of course. Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm getting an apartment, I think. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That first step, but I don't know. I think it's I think somebody's own success, a lot of it is determined on their own commitment to their own ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I think the average competence of the average person is pretty high.
Yeah.
Like high enough to be, at least somewhat successful. And I think you are right. That is partially what I'm doing. I'm seeking is the thing I believe true? Can I go out and ask people and will I be called an idiot? It's
right.
I don't think so. And most of the time it's like maybe I am an idiot. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
You're not an idiot. You just are an overthinker.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing is just you overthinking life, But in terms of I'm not exactly sure what your end result is that you're trying to find.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 20 years?
Yeah, I have no idea.
But yet you do all this thinking.
Yeah.
But yet you don't even have like an idea of what you want it to be. I'm not saying to prophesy what you're going to be doing, but what do you want it to look like?
I think I have values in terms of my freedom. I want financial freedom. I want
Really? I would have never guessed.
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily want a boss. That's probably one of the great things I don't want. I don't want somebody that can tell me you can't take a vacation at these times. I want the ability, if I can, to live in a place I like.
I'm going to tell you a great thing about having a boss, though. Yeah. That sucks not having one.
Yeah.
I had a boss for a long time as an illustrator. I had to answer to art directors.
Yeah.
And the great thing, and anybody out there that also is a professional commercial artist of any kind, you can complain about having to please an art director.
Yeah.
But there's nothing as satisfying as getting the job done and the art director going, great.
Yeah.
And you go, he's the only guy I needed to make happy.
Yeah, right.
And now I can stop thinking about this project.
Yeah.
Because it's over.
Right. Well, and you have a success and failure rate.
Now, I have nobody to answer to.
Yeah.
I have paintings that I got to just do.
Right.
That nobody can come into my studio and say, it's perfect.
No.
Don't do any more. Right? Because I have nobody to trust in that regard, too.
Right.
How do they know?
Yeah.
Right? I have nobody specifically. So it's like the idea of having like an art director again, and a boss of somebody that you can answer to, and say, is it good? Because there's many artists that I'll tell you, without that, without someone else above them as a boss, you will never know if you're really done. You know, like it's just it's nice to have the validation from someone who has the power to say, it's done,
right,
and we're going to print it. It's going to be used,
right,
and you go, great, that's great. And I never hated that for 14 years. As a movie poster illustrator, you can imagine how many people I had to answer to. But it never bothered me because I knew they're my goal, to make them happy. It's nice to know all I have to do is do this, and they have to say it's good. I don't even get that now. You know, I don't have that. And so this idea of I never want to work for anyone else and all that kind of thing, it sounds good. But don't discount the idea of having a boss. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay, especially if it's a good company and it's a good boss, or it's a good art director or something like that. I learned so much from people who I worked for to be able to eventually do what I do. But my goal wasn't necessarily to not answer to anybody. Sometimes I still wish I had someone to answer to. I used to have someone in the art world, the fine art world, who is an older man who was very influential in the art world that I'm in. And he took a liking to me and became friends with all of us here. And he would come over to the studio. And it was like this great moment of, this is the closest I'm going to get to a boss again, where he'd come into the studio and he'd sit there for 15 minutes and just look. And if he gave any approval whatsoever on something, it was like, you know, like, this is great. This is awesome. And if he gave a critique, all I have to do is fix the things he says and fix. And it's like nice to have that, you know? It's nice because, like, this thing that you're doing even now, you don't really have anybody you're answering to.
No, I don't.
And so you're not even sure if what you're doing is, like, good.
Well, that's why I'm asking everyone.
You know, is this worth it? I mean, you know, because there's, like, nobody to answer to here, you know? And so, is that so great, though?
Well, again, that's where the doubt comes from. Is I don't have a success and failure thing. I'm just going around and like, am I doing it? You know, is it working? And it's like, I don't know. You know, and I guess it's like I'm after being alone for 5 months, just completely by myself, doing exactly what I want every day. You know, going to national parks, staying in Brooklyn for going to Europe for a month, taking trains around Europe. Is that it's not as great as I thought it would be, you know? It not having a structure, not having like a hierarchy, and just being, it's like being Peter Pan or something. Just like perpetual, like I'm gonna do whatever I want all the time, you know? There isn't much meaning in that, you know? I think meaning comes from interacting with other people, you know, and having a thing to strive for, not necessarily like, like the thing I've been telling people is the way I've been living has been kind of nihilistic. You know, it's like living like the people that are better than me, that have more wisdom than me, don't. You know, it's like, they don't matter as much as they think they do. You know, which is true on a cosmic scale, but on a personal scale, like it has. I'm learning you just can't live that way. You know, like I think somebody is rewarded based on how much responsibility they take for their own lives, but having just complete responsibility for your own success it's not always apparent what the correct direction to go in is, you know. And there's a price to pay for that, because and I think it is the self-doubt, it is the impulse to go and ask, you know, like what is the meaning in what I'm doing, you know. And I think it's meaning comes from working in illustration, because there is a success and failure thing for it, you know. It's like there is an end date to your painting, you know. And I don't know if I could be a fine artist. Like, I don't think I could.
Seems like you should have a sit down between you and God.
Yeah, I'm trying to take ayahuasca or something. Just
maybe that's the next guest.
Right. Yeah. I have a Bible that your wife gave me. But,
because you're ultimately, this is the podcast in the search for the meaning of life.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
this isn't just we have hardly talked about art.
Yeah,
I've tried to interject some into it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all related. I mean,
it's a trash truck.
Sketchy man.
Now, do you think they think about the meaning of life all the time?
They might have more meaning than both of us.
I think they have a lot more security.
Yeah.
In knowing they have a job.
Yeah.
And they bet they have beautiful families back at home.
Pension.
And they're going to have a beautiful little Christmas tree back at home, and they're going to have great memories in a couple weeks, and they just do what they have to do. And I love the idea of a job where you do your job.
Yeah.
You pay for your responsibilities, but it's to have your family.
You turn it off, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a way of getting to the real thing, which is a life.
Yeah.
Because, art is not a life.
Yeah.
It's means to a life.
Yeah.
No different than a plumber has, he doesnn't find, no difference in doing plumbing and saying, all my meaning comes from plumbing. It's ridiculous, It's like,
yeah, right.
Art's not any better. It's stupid, It's dumb.
Yeah,
what we do is dumb.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, it's like I think the act of being a bad painter and being a great painter, the actual act of staying in your studio and putting on strokes is the exact same, It's like that self-doubt, I don't think goes away at any level, And it's like, I think if you can find love in the process, you don't necessarily need to be a fine artist to find meaning out of it. You could be somebody who makes, again, I'm not bashing this as a creative career, but textbook illustration stuff, It's very, binary. It's very, you're just creating images of anatomy and stuff, There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think,
No, I mean, as an illustrator, I used to do ridiculous things, that were just to pay the bills, and there's nothing wrong with any of it, and I hope that you find something that, I think this isn't about you, whether you need validation for why you're not painting, or whatever it is you're trying to get validation
I have no idea.
for. Perhaps this really will end up being what you are known and famous for someday, and it'll be this huge surprise that your whole life has simply been in front of a microphone questioning other people's meaning of life, and you find meaning for your life out of this.
I do. Yeah. I think that's the way it's going right now.
Yeah. So it's like it's self-fulfilling prophecy or something here, but eventually here you're going to probably have a hard time as you actually get some answers for your life. Still doing this.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, and I think
it's go to like Kurt Cobain talked about, out of all that angst of crudiness in his life, he created these grungy songs and stuff, and then when he got success, he kind of didn't know what to write about anymore. He felt like a hypocrite.
Well, I feel like I've been staying in an apartment for the past month and a half or so, and I feel like it has been harder for me to have these conversations, not living the life, not living in a van, because I'm in a house right now, and it's like I feel like a little bit of a fraud.
Wait a minute, you're different than me now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was talking to a homeless person.
Well,
I'm really disappointed right now.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah, but I think that's I think something like this evolves. It's like it's not going to be. It changes. It's like in the same way your art changes. And I think it's again, having faith in something. Having faith in just following the process of painting, it'll just work out in a positive way,
Right.
And I'm having faith that if I just continue to do this thing, I enjoy talking to people, it's going to go through awkward phases of, it's going through an awkward phase right now where I'm transitioning from, driving around the country and living this kind of romantic lifestyle to being just a person in a condo,
Right.
And it's like, okay, what does that mean for the future of whatever this is, you know? And maybe it's just me, you know, driving a couple hours up north to talk to you for a couple hours, you know? Maybe I stop doing it, you know? Maybe that's, like, it being in a van is the wrong way of keeping to do it, you know?
One of the things I never hear you talk about is, like, a desire to, like, have a family or, you know, like that kind of thing. Is that...
I'd like to have a family. The honest answer is I haven't dated in like 3 years or 4 years or something.
And because
I just anxiety, you know. That's like the honest answer. Like I dated a girl for 4 years. It ended horribly, and then just kind of been traveling for a while, you know.
Right.
That's like the honest answer to why.
Right.
I would like to have a family. I just, you know, my values have been towards work for the past, you know. Like,
okay.
You know, not necessarily work, but I guess figuring out what it means to have a career. And
okay.
You know.
So you've been avoiding getting hurt again for 4 years then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the honest answer.
Yeah.
You know,
But
it's like a fear thing, probably.
Yeah. Because I think by your avoidance of it, like, you should be dating.
Yeah.
You should be out there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff that you analyze and all of this stuff, because you're very thoughtful and you do think about everything in your life, is coming from that imbalance that's going on in your life.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly believe that would actually help answer a lot of questions that
I think
you
so too.
have.
Yeah. Well,
if you started directing yourself, so now you should be interviewing prospective mates here.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Under the guise that you want to hear what they have to say about art.
Absolutely. Yeah, I should totally do that.
But you know, how does one attract that towards yourself?
I don't know. I know you're actually right. I think you're absolutely correct that the way I actually solve a lot of these problems is I find meaning in that way, you know. And
right.
I've had this. I was telling Stan this. I've had this idea that, like, maybe if I go, like, you know, can you live completely just intrinsically and feel and live like a fulfilling life? Like, again, can you live just by yourself? You know.
Yeah.
Going from place to place, you know, being in all these amazing best places, and live happily, you know. And the answer I'm finding is not for me, for sure. You know?
Right.
Like, I need something else other than, like,
it's obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I can be in the best places in the
right.
world. Like, I could be in the Grand Canyon or Yosemite or West Glacier, Montana or New York, and it's hard to find meaning in those places. You know, and I'm finding it's like it's not the place at all. Like, those are the best places on the planet, right?
Yeah.
Arguably.
Right.
And it's like I can't get myself to go and enjoy it, you know? It's like
I totally understand that, and that's why I was in more of a hot pursuit for my life partner to come into my life, that I was searching desperately to have someone to share memories and build because honestly it all ends up becoming memories that you want to have with someone else. It's like I was, you know, I had money already by the time I was 20 that I was making as a movie poster illustrator, and I could go places and do things, and I remember just going places by myself, and just thinking to myself, I'll have nobody to, like, say, hey, remember that time we went to Solvang together and we ate and instead I'm there just eating ice cream going, I'll probably forget about this and there'll be no memory out of this at all.
Experiences like that is crazy.
Whereas if I had my wife or girlfriend with me here next to me, this becomes like this huge memory I'll never forget.
Yeah. Right.
And then you find out when you get to be my age that all of those memories are like the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because and then I can go in the house and right now go talk to my wife and share stuff with her, and we can talk about what we used to do, or, you know, memories with the girls and all this stuff. And I know exactly the feeling though. I used to go places just like that and going, this is almost like worthless.
Yeah.
Because it's only in my head.
Yeah.
I have no one else. And just going and telling your friend when you get home, man, I saw the Grand Canyon and it was really cool,
Yeah. But not actually
Yeah.
believing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
But even having friends that you go and do stuff with,
Yeah.
you don't have to have a wife, but you're really isolating yourself here.
Yeah.
You would have had to imagine your experience the last 5 months,
Yeah.
or whatever, how long it's been that you were on the road. If you had your buddy with you,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
and then you guys experienced it all together,
Right.
All of a sudden, everything would have had more meaning,
Yeah. Right.
And so that's already an answer to
Yeah. Well,
the questions here.
again, I'm finding you can't be completely intrinsically motivated. You just can't.
Yeah.
That's just not the way it works.
No.
It's like,
And as an artist, if I'm going to relate it back to art, because I am not a therapist of any kind, I've always used to say this, and it sounds terrible, because it goes back to what you were saying, if I had $1 billion, but I always have told people that if I was stranded on an island
yeah.
with all my paints, and it was like one of those crashes like Tom Hanks went through,
Yeah.
and I had no hope of getting off this island.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much going to live the rest of my life by myself on this island.
Yeah.
I'd have no motivation to paint.
Yeah. Right. And I found that too. It's like, I remember when we came up here with Stan, you were teasing me. It's like, you live the life of a plein air painter, It's like, but I don't interact with those kind of people, I've been interacting just completely on my own, and the motivation to do art has completely fallen off,
Yeah.
And again, it's been almost like an experiment for myself. It's like, can I be in the best places and still find meaning in it? And again, the answer I found is no. Like,
Right.
you need some amount of structure. You need something in your life that does pull you out, because like, you're not just a painter, It's like, if you were just a painter, sure, but you're also a husband and a father and somebody's friend and a sword fighter, It's like, you're all these other things other than just being a painter, And the thing I'm finding is, like, it doesn't matter what you do. It matters how well you commit yourself to it, and how well you do it, It's like, can you... And the thing I've been telling people is, like, I equate that as like having a faith in God or something. If you have faith that if you just go out and do something well with other people, that's going to work out way better for you than just like, going and sitting in your room by yourself making millions of dollars off cryptocurrency or something, or being in a van by yourself in the middle of Utah. It's like, I think all this stuff is just it's all relative. If you don't have a place to go, then you don't have a place to go at all. In your own head. Like,
Yeah.
in the same way, like, you saw Rockwell as a place to go as an artist, and you're like, oh, I can never get there. But as a result of you even just trying to get there, you went somewhere else. That was, and you were able to create your own life just out of that.
Yeah, life happened out of it.
Yeah.
I didn't create it, but yeah, life happens out of it. And so are we done?
No.
Oh.
I'm checking it. Just it goes for as long as you want.
My story, and I don't mean to make anyone feel uncomfortable, but just my own personal experience is, I do have experiences throughout my early life where I felt like there was something more directing my life than just me or my parents, but there was an overall presence in my life, and it was in my belief and faith, it was God. It was God that was literally directing things that happened in my life.
Yeah.
And there was always maybe not a complete recognition of it at the time, but it was definitely a feeling like I was at least addressing the idea that it seems like everything I'm doing has a purpose.
Yeah.
And then I would even make decisions in my life based on that as a kid.
Yeah.
That, hey, I think I'm supposed to be doing something later in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going to jump and see if I could miss this train that's coming down the track, even though my buddies just did it.
Yeah.
So I would opt out of doing dumb things and I grew up in the 70s where we did a lot of dumb things, skateboarding in pools that cops were about to come kind of stuff. And I used to say to myself, I think I think I'm supposed to do something. And I came close to saying, I think God wants me to do these things.
Yeah.
Like, God has another plan for me. So I'm just going to hold off. But it was like, I was on the verge of almost saying that, but I hadn't quite recognized it yet as a kid, like that kind of thing. And then as I became an adult, it was much more easy to recognize that there's a presence in my life that I feel like I'm always being watched.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel
absolutely.
like you're being watched? You know, that's how I feel.
Right. Well, I feel like I'm right there. I mean, I'm right. Like, the thing I've been telling people is that this trip has affirmed my belief that God exists. You know, I'm not really sure even what I mean when I say that kind of thing, but
yeah,
it's like, the kind of trip that I went on requires a lot of faith in order for you to actually go on it. Cause,
for sure.
I mean, I'm hearing all the time, you're going to get killed just at a truck stop. You know, you're going to be killed sleeping in the woods. You know, and it's like nothing bad happened to me. You know, nothing at all. You know,
I honestly thought you were going to kill someone.
Oh yeah, well,
I've seen the knife.
Yeah, it's somewhere in here. I attached it to the wall over there. But,
and I thought I had given you enough instructions on how to kill someone.
yeah. Go for the jugular. Right?
You are the guy in the van.
Yeah. I mean,
you're the one people are afraid of.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's strange how like the rape van or the candy van is a universal joke. Like I went to Croatia and I showed people my van. I showed them photos of it, and they were like, "Oh, that's a rape van." You know? It's like a universal joke. It's fucking weird.
The whole world, huh?
Yeah. Everyone's making fun of it.
Yeah, even the lady putting out her trash this morning, I saw your car, your van parked out on the street, and she was like,
okay.
It does look sketchy.
It is a sketchy van.
It is a sketchy van. Yeah.
I need to get a nicer one at some point. But I guess that's the thing I'm talking about is like a faith in God or something.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to call it God or, coincidence or something, but it's like I would go out and I would like ask for things, and then I wouldn't get exactly what I wanted, but I'd get a version of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like the version that was more appropriate to me.
Right.
You know, it's like I don't think I'm necessarily like the smartest person, the best artist or anything, but there's like a thing that I'm doing that I think is like, it is attracting people to me in a weird way, in a way I never would have expected, in a way that didn't work out as well when I was like looking for it, and now that I've stopped looking for it and I've looked for other things that are more spiritual, I've achieved a lot of things in my career I thought I could never even get close to,
Right.
And I don't know. I think that's God. I think that's my definition of what God is. It's something like outside of yourself.
At this point in your life, like I said with me, it was a gradual recognition of things. If you're looking for it, you can say. But a lot of people just don't attribute anything.
Yeah,
it's all coincidence.
Right.
Like,
which I think is wrong.
I mean, coincidence, but for me, the coincidences were just too much.
Yeah.
Well, it got to the point where it was ridiculous, and I had to address it.
I think it's again, driving around the country in the way I've been traveling, it's given me a new perspective on just how big the world is and how incredible everything is. Like the fact that anything is, based on the way I was living before, the default I think would be that everyone is suffering, everyone's stealing from each other, and everyone's trying to kill each other. Everyone's diseased or hungry or something. But you can go anywhere in the country and find roads to drive on, food to eat, clean water to drink. And the fact that I actually did this. I drove from one end of the country to the other. The fact that there are roads that exist that allowed me to do that I think that's like a miracle. It's like the amount of man hours and the scale that's beyond me that enabled that to happen is
right.
It's like it's so whether you want to call it God or not, it's definitely beyond me. And then looking at that, and then just looking at Grand Tetons or West Glacier, Montana, or any other beautiful place, and finding that there are amazing, beautiful people and kind people everywhere.
Right.
It's just like you're limited by your ability to see that rather than. I was in Phoenix, and I met this guy at this Apple store, and he invited me to his church, and I went to his church, and he right across the street from the church was this guy who was like suffering. He was like homeless, dirty. He's like yelling and crying, and he's probably like my age, you know. But like 10 feet away from him was a church where if he actually went in there and asked for help, people would have helped him, you know. And it's like, he has access to a better life right in front of him, but he's just, I don't know if it's a choice or it's something, right, that causes him not to want to go seek that out.
Right.
And I think that's the thing I'm talking about. It's like, what in our own lives is the thing that we're like the homeless person. We're like the person that's destitute, that has that, like, the thing that we want right in front of us that we're choosing not to see, you know? And for me, I think you're absolutely right. It's like, I have had an amazing experience driving around, but I found it's not sustainable, you know? And the answer to all my questions has been right in front of me in a sense. Like, just like find a partner, you know, find something that's like, you know, not just living this way, you know?
Right.
And I could have done that in San Diego. I could have done that, you know, anywhere, right?
Right.
And it's kind of like a weird cosmic trick or something, you know?
Right.
It's like the treasure that you wanted, that you went on this crazy adventure for, was right in your backyard the entire time, you know? Yeah,
it's very poetic and
I don't know,
stereotypical.
But there's a reason it's stereotypical, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's like a common piece of knowledge. It's like, it becomes a cliche because everyone says it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
well, when you told me, because I got to talk to you right before the big adventure. Right? You were here, you know, and I remember what you told me you were going to do, and I thought, I know how that went.
Well, I
know how that's going to end.
I read The Story of Abraham, you know? The Story of Abraham was a motivating factor. I don't know if I'm a Christian. I don't know if I'm a Jew. I don't know if I'm, you know, Muslim or anything. But I know I believe in all this stuff as metaphors. But I'm not quite there to commit myself to a single faith.
You're kind of like Joe versus the volcano. That's what you are.
Joe?
Have you ever Joe?
No, I haven't.
You've never seen that movie?
No.
It's with Tom Hanks.
I'll watch it.
Yeah. He comes to a point, kind of like where you're at right now. Yeah. You're kind of like Joe.
I guess I have to watch the movie. I'll watch it and tell you what I think.
Okay, tell me what you think.
But I think it's like in The Story of Abraham, it's the idea, at least the way I look at it. It's the story. It's the act of going out and doing anything is a lot better than doing nothing. You know,
right.
It's like, you know, you might go out and you'll find famine and you'll find slavery. You'll be abducted. You know, people will beat you up. Like, but that's not a reason not to go on an adventure. You know, just the act of like walking 3,000 miles, you're going to figure out something about yourself you didn't know before. Which is, you know, you're not going to figure out yourself completely, but it's a lot better than nothing, you know?
Right.
It's like something to do, right?
Right.
And, like, I think the reason that was important to me is because it's like, I know that no matter how dark I get, no matter how dark of a place I get to in my life, I can always just do that, you know? I can always just keep moving forward, you know? And...
yeah, you know, one of the things, too, though, that I will just give you to keep in the back of your mind when if you're still pursuing this, this search, is that you're going to also find it's not just really about, all your answers. And I didn't mean to make it sound like this, like all your answers are in someday you're going to have a soulmate and maybe you'll family, and then you'll feel like, because it's not going to be just from that. Although I will say that in your own small way, you create the world in which you will find the real like feeling of purpose in your life, and that is because you are now going to have to care and self-sacrifice for someone else. Yeah. And you could have gone out and done this thing when you were out there. If you had said, "Hey God, I want to be a help to other people. Yeah. I'm not really doing this as a motivation for me. Yeah. I'm literally, this has nothing to do about me. I want to find purpose and meaning for how I'm going to be of help in this world," kind of thing, you know. And what you find is others is the answer to fulfilling what, and how does one help others, you know, kind of thing. And when you have a family, it's obvious. Yeah. So you kind of become in a bubble in a way of I'm just helping my family and stuff. But like for me, like my faith in God is also how I should be always available.
Yeah.
And I find meaning and purpose through being available to God to help others.
Yeah. Right.
You can't feel more purpose in life than knowing that you're kind of like always ready with a first aid kit to be helpful and be out there helping others.
Yeah.
And so you will find that you will find a lot of your purpose in that. And that's why a lot of people who just get a family right away kind of stay there.
Yeah.
But if you were single still and you were out there, you would see that you could have found more purpose to your life in your adventures if that was your motivation, to be open and available to just help.
Right.
To be like, if you believed in God, that He could use these hands and you say, whatever I should do. And it's amazing what will present itself as the thing you can do to help people.
And I find no matter where you go in the world, that those things there's an infinite amount, like essentially an infinite amount of things to do, you know.
But it makes you not think about yourself.
Yeah, right.
Because it's really honestly like just navel gazing is just not good.
Yeah.
You need to just be thinking about others.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
I loved the story. The leader that started the entire Salvation Army. He was president at the time, and I can't remember his name right now. But the Salvation Army, and there was this big, huge meeting of all the factions from around the world. They were coming to listen to have him give this big talk that was going to motivate them for the coming years, kind of thing. Yeah. And everyone revered this guy who kind of founded it, and he was part of it. So he gets up to the podium, and everyone's ready to hear this motivating speech. And he gets up to the mic, and he just goes, "Others," and he walked off. That's it. That's his whole speech.
Yeah.
Others.
Right.
I love that story.
Yeah.
I think about that story all the time.
Yeah. Right.
Because that's really, you don't want to be in an isolated little van and
you can't.
Life.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and it's again that's kind of the thing I'm getting at. It's like that's where I think like when I talked about meaning in the very beginning, I think that's what I'm talking about. It's like, how do you motivate yourself to work really hard? And I think it is other people. You're not doing it for yourself.
Right.
You're doing it, for your wife and kids. For people to enjoy your paintings, for everything else, that comes from that.
And also, for me, it comes from people looking at my painting.
Yeah.
Like, my motivation is not to shock and disturb people. Now, that I know that that's a whole other way of thinking for some artists and stuff. But for me, I actually do want the people who put a painting in their home to actually benefit from it.
Right.
Either be spiritually or emotionally in some way. I don't want to depress people.
Yeah.
I want people to feel uplifted even through the actual art.
Yeah.
Not my act of just providing art to pay for my family, but the actual art itself, I want to be of a positive influence in other people's lives that would even want to buy it.
Right.
Now that may make me look like a sellout to some, because that means I'm only painting joyous-looking paintings in a way, or beautiful things.
Right.
The beauty. I want beauty to be part of it.
And skill, I'd imagine too. I mean, like doing it at a really high level as well.
It's only so that I'm able to connect and communicate.
Yeah.
Because art is just a communication device. It's just like that's why I said if I was on an island, I wouldn't have any motivation to do art, because I'm really just trying to communicate to people through the art. And if I had no hope of communicating to anybody, there's nobody to communicate to. I'm not motivated to use that language. Yeah. It's just a language to me, So you want to know your language as well as you can.
Yeah.
Just like you would learn, Swahili. If you're going to go and talk to those people, you would want to be able to know it as well as you can. Well, I want to know. I've always wanted to be able to communicate what I want to communicate as well as I can. If it's lousy art, if if a head looks like a monster, and I meant it to look like a little girl, now my meaning of my communication, of my message I'm trying to send, is ruined.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to avoid ruining the communication through it.
Right.
So yeah, you just try to be a better artist. But
Yeah.
in the end, I'm just trying to communicate, uplifting messages and feelings and make people see life, in a more positive way,
Yeah.
to help them get through whatever they're getting through.
Well, there's a quote from one of the great thinkers. It's like Carl Jung or Nietzsche or something. It said, "If you can figure out the why in your life, any how is easy."
Mm-hmm.
And I think the act of painting is actually very boring. The moment to moment.
It is. Yeah.
And once you find out the why of like,
Right.
Why do I want to, spend 16 hours a day doing this? And it's like, oh, of course, yeah. It's to uplift people. It's to make people's lives better. And if you actually believe that, and if you actually believe that's true, then it's like an obvious answer. Yeah, like, sure, I will go through the suffering of, painting for 16 hours a day in order to make somebody's life better.
Right.
And like, the equivalent for that when it comes to like a diet, like an actual physical diet, is like, you can't eat cupcakes all the time. You can't do exactly what you want all the time. It's just like almost living like it doesn't matter. Like if you eat cupcakes all the time and ice cream and smoke cigarettes, drink nothing but alcohol, like you're living like that stuff is actually not affecting your body, which is incorrect. It's actually just not true. Like you would die.
Great.
Much faster doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
So if it's true for your body, it also probably has to be true for your own brain. Like if you're filling your brain with nothing but cupcakes, doing nothing but living a kind of a hedonistic lifestyle in terms of what you put into your own brain, it's gonna come out in the way you see your life. At least I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the thing I'd imagine more people struggle with than the actual technical side of art. It's like seeing meaning in what they do, seeing value in their own, the way they spend their time or the art they create or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine some people do. You would be that way.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Some people are good at avoiding these hard questions of life.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people listening to this, watching this, would say to themselves, I've never, I don't know how many people think about life as much as you do, which is to be admired.
Yeah.
That you're trying to figure things out. I think it's great.
Yeah, and it's in a Christian idea, it's the idea of repentance and salvation. I think it's like, I have been a lazy person in my life. I've been resentful, and I've been like, I have committed sins, right? And I'm trying to look at those and be like, that's not going to define who I am in the future,
Right.
It's like, I am going to be somebody who does, at least what I believe, I'm trying to say things of value. I'm trying to say things of, like, I have a good idea of what these questions are for myself, and I'm also trying to answer it in a way that, like, can I explain this in a way that somebody else might resonate with, And I think if I can do that, then I will have lived a very meaningful, positive life. Like if it is true that art and painting is just another form of communication, then if you can say exactly what you want to say without painting, then why wouldn't you do that?
Right.
And again, I found I'm a lot better of a speaker than I am a painter.
That sometimes can translate into a teacher.
Yeah.
So maybe you have to be able to do it somewhat to be a teacher.
Yeah. I think in a couple of years I could become good enough to teach well enough.
Well, maybe that's in the future then. That's good.
Yeah. To a degree.
Cool.
Yeah. We've been going for, let's see.
Yeah. What time is it?
1 hour and 36 minutes. It's 11:18.
Okay.
How should people follow you on the internet?
So I have a Facebook that people can follow, Morgan Weistling, and my Instagram is @Weistling, Weistling. That's my last name. And those are the two outlets that I have, as well as my website, morganweistling.com.
Cool.
So probably the most current updated thing is my Facebook.
Yeah.
And my Instagram. The website gets
Yeah.
the last. I do it all myself, but it's like by the time I've done Instagram and Facebook, I don't feel like doing the website.
I'm in the same boat. I release my podcast on YouTube, and then I just like by the time I finish everything, it's like, oh god, I got to do Spotify and all this stuff now.
Right.
Like, oh god.
Yeah.
It takes so much effort. But,
it's not my favorite thing to do.
yeah.
I really don't enjoy, the whole social network thing because I really have a lot to do, and it's like it's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Right.
But I have to do it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate doing this, man. It's super cool of you.
Hey, this was fun.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, cool.
Next time we can talk about art.
Yeah. When I figured out my own life to a degree,